Okay, today we are diving into an absolute giant of 21st century cinema. I'm talking about the 2002 Brazilian masterpiece, City of God. We're going to deconstruct this thing and really figure out what makes it such an unforgettable, powerful experience. So, how does a story about a chicken, of all things, become one of the greatest films ever made? Well, right from the jump, the film just throws you into this absolute chaos. You're watching this frantic, darting chicken trying to escape its fate. And that one chase scene, it sets the stage for everything. Because really, that chicken's desperate run for freedom, that's a mirror for the lives of every single person in this story. So let's get into it. Welcome to the city. This is a story of crime and survival stretching all the way from the 1960s to the 1980s. We are immediately dropped into the favelas, the slums of Rio de Janeiro. And you have to understand, this place isn't just a backdrop. No way. The city itself is a living, breathing character, and it shapes the destiny of every single person living inside its twisting, maze-like streets. And the name of this place, Cidade de Deus, it translates to City of God. And man, the irony there is just so powerful. You hear City of God and you think of sanctuary, right? Hope. But the reality the film shows us, it's the complete opposite. It's a world defined by crime, by poverty, and just this constant, brutal struggle to survive. And look, this story isn't just some quick snapshot. It's a huge, epic saga that unfolds over 3 decades. We kick things off in the 60s with these small-time crooks, the Tender Trio. Then we watch it all escalate in the 70s with the terrifying rise of a drug lord named Lil Zay. And finally, by the 80s, it just explodes into all-out gang warfare in the favela. So, to navigate this incredibly complex world, we're really following 4 key people. First, you've got Rocket. He's our narrator, our eyes and ears on the ground. He's an aspiring photographer who just wants to document the world, not get caught up in the violence. Then you have the antagonist, Lil Zay, who is just the embodiment of ruthless, terrifying ambition. And caught between these forces are guys like Benny. He's the charmer, the partner who's looking for a way out. And Knockout Ned. And Ned's story is just heartbreaking. He's a good, peaceful guy who gets dragged into this whole mess. Okay, next up, grounded in reality. We're going to talk about how authenticity became this film's signature. See, you watch this film and you think, wow, this feels so real, right? What gives it that raw, almost documentary-like power? Well, the answer is pretty simple. It's because it's deeply rooted in reality. This was a very deliberate choice by the filmmakers to get an absolutely incredible level of authenticity. And I mean it. This isn't some made-up story. The film is based on real events. It's adapted from a novel by a guy named Paula Linz. And get this, he actually grew up in the City of God. He based his book on years of research and the real, true stories of the people who lived there. This commitment to realism, it went all the way to the casting. And this is just wild. The directors, Fernando Meirelles and Katia Lund, they made this radical choice to cast people who actually lived in the favelas. Many of them had 0 acting experience. I mean, none. The goal was to capture something raw, something truly authentic, because they believed that only people who really understood this life could portray it honestly. All right, this brings us to one of the film's biggest ideas, the inescapable cycle of poverty, ambition, and violence. And all that authenticity we just talked about, it's all in service of this incredibly powerful theme that just pulses through the entire film. This brutal, self-perpetuating cycle of violence. See, the film is basically arguing that this violence, it isn't just random. It's a system. And the first gear in that system is poverty. It all starts with the kind of poverty that just severely limits the options for anyone growing up there. And that poverty, well, it leads directly to the next piece of the puzzle, a crushing lack of opportunity. When there are no jobs, no real way out, the allure of crime, it stops being just a bad choice. For a lot of these kids, it becomes the only viable path to getting any kind of power, or even just surviving. So you put those 2 things together, poverty and no opportunity, and what do you get? You get a vicious feedback loop, an inescapable cycle. One generation of criminals is, almost inevitably, replaced by a younger, hungrier, and often even more ruthless group. And that just ensures the violence keeps going, unbroken. And if you want a perfect, heartbreaking example of how this cycle corrupts everything it touches, just look at the story of Knockout Ned. I mean, this guy was a good man. He was popular, had a steady job as a bus conductor, and wanted absolutely nothing to do with the gangs. But then, his family is brutalized by Lil Z, He gets dragged into the war, and that desire for revenge, it completely transforms him. He becomes the very thing he hated. Okay, let's talk about the filmmaking itself. Artistry and impact, the craft behind the chaos. Because City of God isn't just a powerful story, it's an absolute masterpiece of filmmaking. And honestly, the way the story is told is every bit as important as the story itself. One of the coolest things it does is how it plays with time. It's a nonlinear narrative, which is a fancy way of saying it jumps around a lot. It's constantly using flashbacks to show you exactly how some small-time robbery back in the 60s directly connects to a full-blown gang war in the 80s. It's an amazing technique, and it makes it so clear that the present is totally haunted and defined by everything that happened in the past. And right at the center of all this is our guy, Rocket, and his camera. For him, that camera is everything. It's his weapon and his escape route. First, it lets him observe all the chaos from a safe distance, through a lens. Second, it lets him document the reality of his world, to capture the truth that people on the outside just don't see. And finally, and this is the most important part, it becomes his one and only potential ticket to escape. And let me tell you, the world absolutely took notice. The film's incredible craft, its raw power, it just exploded internationally. It earned a whopping 4 Academy Award nominations. 4, including Best Director and Best Cinematography. For a non-English language film, that is a stunning, stunning achievement. It totally cemented its place as a landmark of world cinema and put a huge global spotlight on the incredible vibrancy of Brazilian filmmaking. So, that brings us to the end, the final frame, and the big question. Does the cycle ever end? Yeah, this is where we have to talk about the film's unforgettable and deeply unsettling ending. It's an ending that forces us to ask a really tough question. Can a place like the City of God ever truly fundamentally change? You know, the ending offers 0 easy answers. The big bad, the seemingly invincible drug lord, Little Zay, he's finally killed. But think about who kills him. It's not the police, it's not a rival gang leader. He's taken out by the Runts, a gang of actual little kids who see his death as their big chance to take over. And right as they're plotting their own violent reign, Rocket snaps the photo of the body that's going to land him a job and get him out. So yeah, one person escapes, but the cycle itself just tightens its grip. And that leaves us with one last really complex question to chew on. Rocket's camera is his ticket out, right? But what does it mean that his freedom is bought by capturing the very same violence he's running away from? He gets his freedom, sure, but he gets it by turning the horror of his home into a product, a photograph for the morning paper. His personal escape is literally built on documenting the tragedy that's just going to continue for everybody else left behind. So what does that tell us about the line between being an observer and a participant? And what does it say about the real price of survival?